What is going on, you guys? It's DSDude464 here, bringing you another awesome video. Today we're going to be doing some deep analysis of a few of the multiplayer crews that we currently have information on in the upcoming FPS RTS hybrid Disintegration. If you don't know what Disintegration is, then go ahead and click on that little eye icon in the top right corner of the screen, or find the link down in the description below. That'll take you to my previous video on Disintegration, which gives a rundown on what exactly that game is. Now, let's go on to the meat of the video. So, in addition to a single-player campaign, this game will feature 3 different types of multiplayer modes. Within each of these modes, there will be multiple Gravcycle crews for you to choose from. Each crew has their own unique design, weapons, stats, and abilities. It will likely take some experimenting with each of the crews to find out which one is right for you. Will you go with the extremely fast running gunner or the durable but slow heavy hitter? Now, currently they have not released any official information on each of the crews that will be available, but I was able to take some screen captures from the Gamescom demo of the crews that were available in that demo, and they give us some information on each of them. Now, please keep in mind that this is from an unfinished alpha version of the game, and will likely see many changes as the game reaches release, but I believe the general archetype for each of the crew will remain, and it could be good to have an idea of what they do as you go into it. We also know at launch there will be more crews available than the 6 I'll be going over today. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into this thing. First up, we get to see a pretty awesome crew with the name Lost Ronin. Now, personally, I am a huge fan of samurai and everything like that, and so this is, as far as aesthetics goes, definitely my favorite of the crews. The design of this crew is clearly done to look like a group of robot samurai, which is amazing. As far as stats go, this crew appears to be a pretty average group that is mid-range for all of the 3 listed stats. The Gravcycle in this crew has 2 main weapons. The first is the Spitfire cannons. Its description reads, burst fire weapon with high accuracy while scoped. Its second weapon is the Yummy rockets. Its description is as follows: fires seeking missiles at targets. Now, the next block of information is tied directly to your AI companions that you control from your Gravcycle. Each has their own ability that they can use upon your command. While we haven't really had an exact answer on this, I think it's probably safe to bet that these abilities are on a cooldown. We also aren't given a description of these abilities either, so we'll need to make some educated guesses on what they do. So, for the Ronin crew, the first ability is called Rocket Barrage. This one seems pretty clear. You most likely paint an area, and missiles rain on that area for some time. The other 2 companions appear to have the same ability, which is a concussion grenade. If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say this is likely a grenade that deals a small amount of damage, but causes some form of knockback and disorienting effects, maybe even a stun, but that's less likely. Ultimately, like I said, this seems like a great all-around crew that will be really easy for beginners to jump into. It's kind of that mid-range class that anyone could jump into. Next, we have the Sideshow. This crew appears to be that of a troupe of circus clowns. Looking at the stats, these guys appear to be a bit less durable, but with slightly more speed and handling. The Gravcycle in this crew only has 1 weapon, which is the sticky grenades. Its description reads, lobs grenades which stick on impact. So, pretty straightforward there. It'll probably be really good against ground troops during matches, and the AI abilities for this crew are each unique for this crew. The first is Blast Wave. Now, if you look at the icon for the ability, you can see this is actually tied to the large guy standing in the back with a rhino horn on his head. That little image next to it looks exactly like his head. My guess for this one is he'll likely do some sort of ground pound, which will send out a shockwave in a conical area, and maybe even cause some knockback. Next up is the Disrupt Droid. My guess is that this one will either create a small stun effect, or temporarily disable weapons and abilities. And the final ability is the Slow Field. This is the one that we've seen in some of the gameplay. You target an area and a large blue or purple dome appears over that area. Any enemy projectiles and likely enemies that pass through are slowed down to a crawl. This looks like another option for someone looking for an all-around way to use beginning classes. Pretty simple, straightforward, not too hard to understand. Next up, we have the Warheads. Now, this crew heavily gives off Mad Max post-apocalyptic vibes, which I think is pretty fun. It's a pretty common aesthetic, especially for, I think, this type of a game. This is also the first crew to have really drastically different stats. They have extremely high durability with very low speed and handling. So this is going to be a slow, heavy-hitting tank crew. The Gravcycle has 2 weapons, the first of which is the Trinades. It reads, fires multiple bouncing grenades. Nothing too fancy there. And its second weapon is the Warhead, which says launches a powerful timed explosive. This one is actually shown quite often in the footage that was released. It essentially looks like a mini nuke that deals very high damage and really honestly looks like a ton of fun to use. Now another interesting tidbit about this crew is that it only has 2 AI companions compared to the usual 3 that we've seen so far. The first ability is Blast Wave, and once again it appears to be tied to the larger companion, and we've already discussed this one. And the second is the Slow Field, which we've already also discussed. So this looks like definitely an interesting crew that I think would probably focus more on the Gravcycle itself and less on the companions. And I think that it's capable of doing a lot of damage, and especially if you know once you learn how to use it. Next up, we're looking at the Kingsguard, which is themed after medieval knights. This crew appears to be fairly durable with more speed and handling than the Warheads. The Gravcycle has a weapon and an ability. The weapon is the Javelin Launcher, which is described as charged bolt that slows enemies on contact. In the gameplay, it appears to be a crossbow that you charge to fire, likely dealing more damage the longer you charge it. The ability it has is the Nano Emitter, which is described as deployed emitter repairs nearby allies over time. So that obviously is a healing field that you can use for yourself and your companions. So the first ability for your companions is the Rocket Barrage, which we've already talked about a bit. The other 2 abilities are actually the same and are mines. I think that's pretty straightforward, but I wonder if you'll be able to lay down more than 1 mine so that you can cover an area, or if it's going to be just 1 mine per companion. So you kind of have to be careful about where you're placing it and make sure you're paying attention to that kind of thing. The next crew we have is Tech Noir. This crew gives off a very futuristic cyberpunk feeling that's actually really cool, and I think is a fun addition to this game, especially with it being kind of a cyberpunk feeling all around with the story. And looking at the stats, this very much seems to be a run and gunner type crew with low durability but high speed and handling. The Gravcycle has a weapon and an ability. The weapon is the NG6 Marksman Cannon, which is a semi-auto rifle that applies a burning effect, which honestly sounds amazing and like a super cool weapon. I'm always a fan of semi-auto, and just having that burning effect sounds really, really cool. Its ability is the NRD Repair, which says seeks and repair friendly target over time. So this one is different from what the Kingsguard have. The Kingsguard's most likely is going to be an AoE, while the drone is either single use or single target. And if I were to guess, I would say it's very likely that it has a slightly more effective and quick repair time than the Nano Emitter. Alright, so the first AI ability is the Seeker Rockets. This one is probably different than the Rocket Barrage. It probably most likely fires a salvo of rockets that follows one target, maybe multiple, but it is targeted directly towards them, and it sounds like it would be pretty effective and pretty cool. The second ability is Slow Field, which we have discussed, and the final is Disrupt Droid, which we've also discussed as well. And finally, the last crew we have seen and have information of is Neon Dreams. This crew appears to be based off of a race car team, and in keeping in line with that, the stats appear to show that this is another easy-to-drive, extremely fast Gravcycle that is easily destroyed, and is the fastest of the crews that we currently know about. The Gravcycle has a weapon and ability. The weapon is the MK-64 light machine gun, which reads Rapid Fire Machine Guns. Pretty straightforward, machine guns make sense for a run and gun class. The ability is Ion Disruption, which states temporarily increases damage against the target. That sounds like a fairly powerful kit for a runner and gunner, especially the damage increase on a target. What's interesting is that normally disruption or disruptor rounds affect your gun specifically, but this sounds like you pick a specific target and they take more damage until either they're destroyed or the cooldown runs out. That would be my guess. And the AI abilities for this crew is the Seeker Rockets and 2 concussion grenades, all of which we have already discussed. Now, that is all the crews we know about so far. I believe it was said during one interview that there's a planned 9 crews for launch, with more released during its life cycle. But, like I said, this game is still unfinished in an alpha, and very likely that there could be more crews at launch, or even less crews at launch, who knows. Also, something I noticed while going over this whole analysis is the fact that the Gravcycle pilot's main outfit matches the theme of the crew, whereas the AI companions seem to simply follow the color scheme, maybe with some slight changes to feel more in line with the theme. But the AI companion's chassis design seems to be tied to the ability it possesses, regardless of the crew it's on. For example, the companions with the blast wave that we had talked about are all very large and with what appears to be something akin to a rhinoceros horn on their head. And this is probably done to help players identify what they're going up against in any given engagement, which I think is really cool. It's something that a lot of, I feel like, games are really starting to go more into, like with Titanfall 2, for example. I know that game's a little older, but with that game, they specifically had each Titan have a very specific look to them, so that you know when you're jumping in, oh, that's an Ion and that's a Scorch that I'm facing off against, so you have an idea of the crew that you're going up against. And that about wraps up this one. So far, I'm really loving the crews they've already introduced us to, and I can't wait to see what else they have in store for us. I think that already with what we have, there's potential for some really, really cool crews, even cooler than the ones we have, so I can't wait to see what else they have. And let me know what you think they have in store for us and what crew you really want to play as. Let me know in the comments below. I personally am probably going to be either running Tech Noir or Neon Dreams, leaning more towards Tech Noir only because of their main weapon. That just sounds so cool, the semi-auto fire damage dealing one. That just sounds so cool. And I'm very much into the run and gun archetype. Well, anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. I really want you to know how much I appreciate you guys checking out the content. I don't know if you saw, but I recently reached 300 subscribers on my channel, which just means so much to me. I know it's probably not a very big number, but being a content creator here on YouTube has always been one of my dreams, and just seeing that number steadily rise every week is amazing to me, and you guys are just awesome. Thank you so much for always checking in on the videos and leaving a like, and as always, if there's a game you want me to cover, let me know in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. If you enjoyed the content, I'd really appreciate if you did drop a like on the video and hit that subscribe button. It helps me keep pushing for that big 1,000 subscribers, and it just helps the channel in general, and it helps me feel good about the content I'm making and help me keep going. And also, if you don't like what I'm doing, please also leave some suggestions in the comments about what you'd like me to do differently. I'm always open for suggestions. I want to make sure that the content I'm creating is what you guys want to see. So please, whatever feedback you have for me, go ahead and leave it down in the comments. I always try and do my best to respond to the comments that I get down there as soon as I get them. But anyway, you guys, thanks so much once again. I also wanted to let you know that coming up, we're having the release of Jedi Fallen Order. I am planning to do a full playthrough of that game. Right now, I'm leaning towards doing a no commentary run of the game so that you guys can just enjoy the gameplay without my annoying voice over it. But that being said, if you guys would prefer me talking about it while I'm playing, let me know in the description, or sorry, in the comments as soon as you can, so that I am prepared for that when I do get the game on release. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there, you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next one.